Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here today to review Feud, Capote versus the Swans, Episode 3. And the title is Masquerade 1966. And now last night I had a little bit of a freak out, because last week I was not expecting the two episodes, and well, for some reason I looked at Hulu last night and I got really scared because it had both episodes 3 and 4, and I thought, oh shit, are they gonna do that self-sabotage that they did with American Horror Story New York, where they play two episodes every week because they just want to get it over with? Like, I thought, this show doesn't deserve that at all. But no, apparently they just wanted to put next week's episode up ahead of time so that it's queued up. And so I did not watch the episode until this morning. And I'm kind of glad, because it's so much better to watch these episodes without all those fucking advertisements. Like, none of them are relevant to me. None of them are interesting to me. I just despise them, and I'm sick of them, and yeah. So this episode, basically the whole thing is black and white, and it's all about this kind of, I guess it's a failed documentary that they were making about Truman Capote, and, kind of showing his life as a writer around 1965. And what was really interesting about this episode was that it really felt like a reality show, like a retro reality show in like the coolest possible way, with like all these great retro wardrobes and things. And I really, really love this episode. There's so many things that I really, really enjoyed about it. Like, as I said last week, the performances are perfect. I mean, I love every single episode of just watching the performances alone, like, even if not much happens. But something that was very interesting about this episode was that every single member of, like, the main group of the Swans, they get a little bit of a highlight moment this episode. Like, every single one after the other, they kind of have, like, a freak out. And they know that the cameras are there, so they get really sensitive, and they're like, no, put the camera away, turn the camera off. And what was really interesting was that this episode did a really good job at showing, like, the whole message of the episode was that, like, life is a masquerade ball, and we're all putting on this picture of perfection, and then underneath that there's all this, like, trouble going on, because, like, every single one of them, they're acting really nicely in front of the camera, and they're like, especially Babe, she's like, so, when you want to make a party invitation, you have to use the certain type of paper. It has to be a white paper, 100-pound matte stock paper, and you have to make it a certain way. And then, a couple of seconds later, she's like, my fucking husband is cheating on me! Ah! And, and Truman is just like, it's okay. Oh, the camera's just pointed over here a little bit, just shoot a little over here. And, it's really funny, because this episode also shows that it was clear that even before Truman wrote that article and was planning on writing that book, it was clear that he was already trying to kind of expose these women, because there were multiple points in this, like, especially the ending part where he's at the masquerade ball, because this is all about him planning for this ball that he's throwing, this special ball, because, Truman likes balls in multiple ways than one. And he's at the ball, and I am going to kind of jump around a lot, so I don't care. I'm not going to do, like, the recap thing where I go through every single little thing in chronological order. I don't like doing that. I think that's a non-review. But Ann Woodward and her son show up at this ball, and Truman, like, humiliates her in front of everyone, and he calls her a murderess. And I was thinking, he's already like doing what he wanted to do a couple years later, where he, writes about her in that article, saying clearly and blatantly that she killed her husband. And that was one of the highlight scenes of this episode for me. In fact, it might have been my favorite scene of the episode, because I was glad to see more of her, because that's what I asked for in the last review. I was like, I want to see more of her. I want to see more of that story expanded upon, and we got to see that here. And, it was kind of sad, because Anne really just wanted to be there for her son, so that her son could kind of get that experience and live the high life for a night. And Truman still like ruined it for them, and he was acting terribly. And this episode also cemented, I guess, my belief that neither of these people, like the Swans or Capote, both of them are not very good people. Like, pick any of the Swans, like the main one, Babe, the Diane Lane's character, CZ Guest, Lee Ratswell, like all of them are the same. All of them are like mean girls who are like overgrown mean girls with their pretty wardrobes that other people made for them and other people designed for them, and they're just, I don't like them at all. But then again, this episode also reminds me I don't like Truman at all either. Like both of them, it's like a 50-50. Both of them are like heavily flawed. And this episode perfectly demonstrates that. The whole masquerade ball was kind of like a prom type of thing. The way that they were treating it, and one after the other, all these different women, they were anticipating on being the guest of honor. It's like, who's going to be the guest of honor? And it was really kind of sickening, because Truman was going around to all of them, and he was kind of treating each one like they would all be the guest of honor. Like, he was almost like auditioning them in kind of a sickening way. He was being really jerky to them. And then when he finally picks Nancy, the Diane Lane character, it was almost like he picked the one who least deserved it in a way, because she got really upset that Truman invited her ex-husband and his new wife. The wife stole away her husband from her, and so he almost kind of gave it to her just out of pity, even though she wasn't really the most deserving candidate. And so that was also kind of interesting. Another favorite scene of mine was when Truman was talking to her, and she was having one of her freakouts, and he goes with her to this I don't know what it was, like a changing room, a back room, and he kind of closes the door almost all the way, but he leaves it open enough so that the camera can shoot what's going on. And I thought that was hilarious, because it's like, it's clear at this point in time he's already like invading their privacy and trying to expose them to the world. But he still wasn't ready enough to expose them, because at the end of this episode, obviously, they show him, and he's like, we're not going to do this documentary. I don't want to do it anymore. It would work better as a book. and it's like, I wonder why. It would work better as a book. And so I guess he already made the decision to do that a couple of years before. And so that whole thing with an episode 1, where I thought that, they were presenting that other guy gave him the idea, why don't you write about them? I guess he was already going to do that. And this documentary really could have, put the nail in the coffin right there. This episode was it was really, really good. It was so solid the whole way through. I really loved, like, all the times that these Swans, they got really mad at the cameras being on, and they insisted on the cameras being turned off because they don't want to expose the little problems that they have go on. And the reason why I find that funny is because nowadays it's the opposite. to where, they love having the cameras on all the time. Kim Kardashian, she's like, oh no, this horrible thing happened. And, she's got to have the camera on her. And she's like, this is a horrible thing. But I'm perfectly okay with the whole world seeing this in a TV show all about me. So it's like nowadays they kind of purposefully they always have the cameras on them because they realized at a certain point, I guess, these types of mean girls, these high society, quote unquote, boring, dull, superficial mean girls, they realized that people actually really like the dirt, and people actually really like their dirty laundry and their secrets. And so nowadays, more often than not, they like to have the cameras on so that they can cry and throw temper tantrums, and and so that the audience can see that and give them attention. Like all these times that we just saw it, like in the last couple weeks, you saw that actress from The Boys. She got plastic surgery. She ruined her face. She looks horrible now. She looks like a skeleton monster. And everyone confronted her about it and said, why did you ruin your face? And so she made this post on her Instagram where she said that everyone is bullying her based off of false allegations that she got plastic surgery. And then she's like, I'm going to quit Instagram. And what did she do, guys? She quit it for a week, and then she came back. Because it wasn't about being bullied, quote unquote, which nowadays I think that there has been kind of a line that has blurred between bullying and criticizing. Because if you just call someone a piece of shit, fucking loser ass retard fuck, that is bullying. But if you say to someone I really don't like what you said, and this is why, you're wrong about this and this and this, and this is why, that's criticism. And, everyone who said that she was wrong for getting plastic surgery, they weren't bullying, they were criticizing. And she quit for a week, and she came right back on Instagram, just like Selena Gomez. She had that controversy at the irrelevant award show, number 11, that she was on, where she looked like a mean girl on camera, and she looked really, really cringeworthy. She looks like a blown-up fish now. She looks like a goldfish cracker that got inflated, like a fucking Augustus Gloop got inflated up with the fucking chocolate shit. I don't know what I'm saying. But, she looks terrible. She looked terrible on camera. She exposed herself in front of the world, and she's like, I quit! And then she quits for a week and then comes right back on. And that's what it's like now. There's so many of these characters like these Swans. And I think that it's kind of interesting because nowadays they really want that attention, even if it comes from the most embarrassing of ways. But back then in this time period, they still kind of had this fake, superficial kind of, I don't know, this kind of facade they had going on, to where they didn't want you to see that they had problems, because they could never have any problems. They could never have relationship issues or anything personal go on. They're always perfect, and their lives are all perfect, and because they're perfect people. So I love this episode. What else should I talk about too? Is there anything else I should mention? Well, I was glad that the character from the first two episodes was not in this episode. Truman's abusive boyfriend. I was really glad that he wasn't in this episode, because he's definitely the worst character, and I did not miss seeing him in this episode. Another thing that I wonder, though, is that how exactly accurate, how accurate was this episode in terms of is all of this footage available somewhere to watch? Or was this episode, like, was it actually based off of, like, real transcripts from footage that exists? Because I would really love to see the real footage. You know, they did such a great job this episode in terms of accuracy to the 60s, in terms of accuracy to, like, it really does feel like it's real, and it feels like it's all real footage. The only thing that you can kind of notice is that now the guy, Tom Holland, not Tom Holland, Tom Hollander, he did that Truman laugh like a million times this episode, and he did it so much that you kind of notice now that's kind of like one of his key things that he does to do this impression to try to make it work. And so, I don't know, it kind of seems a little bit like an impression now, but it's still really good, a really, really good performance. But I would love to see, like, the real footage. I would love to know if all of this stuff actually exists somewhere, especially, like, the Ann Woodward scene. And then she actually really exposed Truman in the way that she quoted him. And she said that the biggest sin of all is deliberate cruelty, and that's exactly what you're doing. And then Truman kept on obsessively watching that scene in the projection room. And I think that, he realized that, like, this is going a little too far. I didn't really care about keeping their privacy. I left the door a little open here, and I kind of, pretended to have them turn the cameras off here, but I really just let them keep them on as long as they didn't notice. But, like, now that it's exposing me, it's not going to work anymore. And that's what he said. It's not going to work. And it's like, yeah, actually, this really did work. Like, this is a really, really great, if this was actually all real, then this would have been a great documentary. It would have been probably considered one of the best documentaries ever made. And I think that another thing is that this also foreshadows, Ann Woodward says, you're going to know what this feels like one day, this poison, and you're going to end up alone all because of what you're doing, like right here. And it's true, obviously that was good foreshadowing. So I really love this episode. I would give it an A+. I really didn't have anything wrong with this episode at all. I didn't have any sort of, like, big flaws or things. Like, I didn't have any issue with time jumping, like in the first two episodes. None of that. All of it was perfect. So, the final scene was a nice little treat, too, because once again, Lily Mae Fulk, Truman's mother, returns. Her ghost, at least. And she is at the masquerade ball, and all the footage is now in color. And she dances with him, and I thought that was a great way to end this episode. And this was overall definitely my favorite episode so far, because it showed that stuff was going on with all of them. Someone had said in the comments last week that Chloe Sevigny's character, that the gossip about her wasn't as bad, but it seemed like she still had some stuff going on, because, there was a scene this episode where she was, like, completely in shambles. She was, forcing the camera guy to shut the camera off, get away. She was really upset. And so, there must have been something. And I really liked that this episode kind of told us that things were going on with all of these women, but didn't really explicitly say for some of them. We know that for a couple of them that it's just affairs or husband left them, whatever. But then, like, the Chloe Sevigny character, I can't remember if they mentioned or not. And I guess I should also mention the Lee Ratswell scene. She has, like, a nice little scene in the salon where she kind of echoes the message of the episode that, everyone's putting on a show, and everything. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention my favorite quote of the episode. So Gino from American Horror Story New York, he makes another great appearance where he has calmed down. He has taken the chill pill. He has had an Asian woman rub his back with some oil on it, and he has calmed down. And he walks up to the camera. He's the only character, basically, the whole episode, him and Callista Flockhart's characters, they're the only characters who kind of like want to kind of expose the truth to the cameras themselves. And Gino says to the camera, you know, the worst thing about all these parties that Truman throws is that you have to pretend to like him to get invited to them. And I was like, ooh, hoo-hoo! Like he totally roasted Truman Capote and just did a mic drop, walked away, and it was like, that was fucking epic, you know. And I was like, yeah, that would be pretty terrible if you didn't like someone, but they threw really, really good parties and you had to pretend to like them to get in. I hope I never have to do that, because I would definitely do that. I admit it. I mean, parties are really fun. You know, I don't know about this party, though. This masquerade ball, the only thing to eat was chicken hash. I've never had chicken hash before. It doesn't sound that good. Well, it looks kind of good. I don't know. It looks kind of dry. Has anyone else ever had chicken hash before? Because it kind of looks like something that you'd eat for breakfast. It looks like a nice savory breakfast that you could have at an old folks' home. You know, it doesn't really look like a fancy high life dinner. In fact, there's this one picture right here from Food.com, Mom's Turkey / Chicken Hash, and it looks like barf. You know, it looks like chicken barf, and it doesn't look very appealing. It doesn't look good. So yeah. Anyways, I really like this episode. I would definitely watch it again. I'm extremely excited for next week. I was also really happy to take a break from American Horror Story 1984, because boy oh boy, that season is a disaster. I mean, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's just that there's so many twists and turns. It's not enjoyable. It's so inconsistent and so all over the place. In contrast to this episode, which was very, very good and very consistent and very thoroughly, like, this episode just wasn't an episode. It was art. It was art, and it was just the best thing ever, except for everything else that I like. And oh yeah, I should also mention, if you guys want to see Callista Flockhart and something else that's really good, you should watch this movie. It's one of my favorite movies. It's called Telling Lies in America. And she plays the love interest in that movie. And it's funny because in this show, she looks like the grown-up version of that character. You know, she had the exact same 1960s hairstyle in that movie, because that took place in the 60s. And it's really funny seeing her in this now, because she looks exactly like she did in that movie, except just a little bit older. So yeah, please like this video and comment and tell me what you thought of the episode. Did you have a problem with anything in it? Because it was pretty repetitive of, like, you know, if you didn't like one part, you probably didn't like the rest of it, because it was all like, you know, he would meet up with one of the Swans, they would pretend that they're really happy in front of the camera, and then they'd throw a fit, and the cameras would be turned off. And that would happen over and over. And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest reviews. We will be reviewing Man of a Thousand Faces today. I hope it is better than House of a Thousand Corpses, because that wasn't very good. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.